everyone. I am Kayla Erb, and I'm so delighted to host today's WIN-NextGen GT3S program learning webinar. The WIN-NextGen GT3S program webinars are designed to advance our mission of preparing NextGens for success in the 3S workforce while building the workforce pipelines that power our future. Our flow for today's focus is on a timely topic and of critical importance for your journey to become workforce ready: how to become an interview ninja with our amazing guest speaker, Jennifer Schauble. As we prepare to unpack this topic, first, I will provide a few brief housekeeping notes and thoughts around why we selected today's topic. Then we'll engage with our esteemed speaker to hear her insights, leaving time at the end for Q&A session. So let's dive in. A few quick housekeeping notes as shown on this slide. This event is being recorded. Please ensure that your microphones are muted until the Q&A, and please use the chat to communicate until we get to the Q&A section towards the end of our presentation. Feel free to get your questions ready now within those two options. I also want to reiterate that we will have the raise hand feature towards the end during the chat. So if you prefer to ask our panelists directly, that's an option as well. So get your questions ready. Please share your feedback. We welcome and appreciate your comments throughout. And most importantly, have fun. We want to hear all of your ideas. The U.S. is facing a massive challenge, a severe labor shortage in STEM, supply chain, and the skilled trades 3S workforce careers. Exacerbated by an aging workforce, rapid AI-driven transformations, and post-pandemic shifts in employment, this means the workforce needs you. And in order for you to be workforce ready and prepared to thrive, WIN-NextGen's mission is just that. WIN-NextGen believes that the next generation of talent can be developed to lead the future with the right skills, guidance, and opportunities. WIN-NextGen is more than a career readiness initiative. It's an ecosystem of innovative brands designed to empower the next generation of talent in STEM, supply chain, skilled trades, and AI-driven industries designed to serve all youth, whether you're in a traditional or non-traditional school, on the field or off, traveling the world as a military family member and or other circumstances. If you haven't become a WIN-NextGen member yet and you're between the ages of 13 and 24, we encourage you to scan the QR code shown here and join our vibrant future-forward community that's working to discover the future of work, reflect to build your future, explore and understand your options, expose, connect, and thrive, and experience the world of work. To provide context for today's webinar topic, let me share the short video taken from WIN-NextGen GT3S core course, Workforce Ready Job Seeker, Foundational Skills in the Interview Deep Dive. As a WIN-NextGen member, you have access to this course and a host of other resources. So let's listen in.
You have probably noticed that many entry-level job listings ask for 2 to 3 years of experience. That can feel really frustrating, right? You are definitely not alone in feeling this way. A lot of employers are having a tough time finding candidates because they are looking for specific skills that many applicants, including recent graduates, might not have yet. Many people do not realize they are missing key skills until they start to job hunt. But here is the good news. There is a way to get ahead. Even though the job market can seem tough, getting started early and being smart about how you present yourself can make a big difference. In this module, you will learn 4 key strategies that will give you the edge you need to stand out and prepare for success in the future of work. These include building your professional profile, accumulating relevant credentials, laying the groundwork for a strong resume, and learning how to build a professional network. These tips will help you shine in the future of work when it matters most.
Okay. So finally, I'm proud to welcome our speaker. I'd like to introduce our panelist, Jennifer Schauble. She's the Senior Director, CMC and Supply Chain at Pavella Therapeutics. She is experienced in supply chain, sourcing, and procurement with a demonstrated history of working in a fast-paced GMP environment, leading high-performing teams. Jennifer is a strong operations professional, skilled in managing complex supply chains, developing and driving supplier relationships, leading critical contract negotiations, driving continuous improvement, and process implementations. Now, Jen, I'll let you say hello while I pull up your slides.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining tonight. I'm very excited to have you all here. This is one of the things that I have really done informally throughout many, many years of my career. So I'm excited to share this in a little bit more formal manner tonight in the form of slides. And I encourage your questions. At the end of the slide presentation, you will find my email address. Please don't hesitate to reach out and email me a question if you think of something afterwards. So tonight I wanted to present to you how to become an interview ninja. So interview skills are accumulated over a lifetime. So I'm old, you guys are young. I've accumulated more skills than I know what to do with when it comes to an interview because I talk to people all day long, formally, informally. And what you start to learn is that life is really an interview. It doesn't have to be in a formal interview process, but what we're going to talk about tonight is what you do in a formal interview. Next slide, please. So we're going to talk about the big things: preparing yourself, knowing your audience, the big day, and following up. Next slide, please. So preparing yourself, a lot of work. This is where the bulk of your work occurs. Interviews themselves really are a very short amount of time compared to getting yourself ready. So we're going to talk about your elevator speech, determining what your brand is, how to dress and how to speak appropriately, your social media presence, and doing mock interviews. So the elevator speech, this is something that I worked for an international multi-billion-dollar company at one point, and the president of our North American operations introduced the concept of an elevator speech, basically saying, how can you summarize yourself in 60 seconds or less? So picture yourself, you're getting into an elevator and there's a top executive standing there as you walk in and you really want to work for this company. You have 60 seconds in the elevator. What are you going to say? You're going to say your name. Hi, my name is Jen Schauble. I'm a bachelor's degree from Villanova University in chemical engineering. And then hit the highlights of your qualifications and your qualities, what you want that person to know, and practice your elevator speech over and over again. This is something that every person that I have mentored on the side, both preparing for interviews, career coaching, whatever it is that I've been helping these young people with, I drill the elevator speech into their head. It should roll off your tongue. Now, it takes a little bit of time to get comfortable doing that. And especially if you're just starting out and you don't really have a lot of experience, you're more on the entry level side, that's where you would want to emphasize your qualities. Maybe not your qualifications so much, but your qualities. I'm a hard worker. I show up on time. I'm driven. I want to learn more. I want to do more, but practice it over and over again. Practice in the mirror, practice with friends, with a teacher, with, a church leader, whomever you feel that you could really benefit from getting some feedback from. Sit with that person and practice your elevator speech. Next slide, please. So what's your brand? Basically, that means what can you do for the employer? What value do you bring them? Because as much as they want to help get young people started into the workforce, they need to know that you are going to bring some value to them. Why should they hire you? Talk about what makes you unique, and not, that you like to color your hair purple and jump up and down on one leg, nothing like that, but what makes you unique. For myself, it was always easy to say that I was unique because I was a female engineer in a manufacturing environment when there were really not that many female engineers in manufacturing environments. Also, what do people say about you? what are your positives? What do your teachers say about you? What do your coworkers say about you? Also, think about where your passion lies. I love supply chain because I like to know how all of the puzzle pieces fit together from the start of manufacturing all the way to delivery through the customer. That's where my passion is, but you have to figure out where your passion is. What's your communication style? So, communication style is something that has really evolved over my 30 plus year career because I did exist in a world before email and before the internet. So I've had the benefit of watching over the last 30 plus years how communications have changed. Back in the day, you had to physically talk to people, pick up the phone, walk around the corner to talk to someone. It's not like that anymore. We have the benefit, perhaps, of we have email, we have texting, we have Slack, we have Teams chats. We have all sorts of forums to talk to people, but how do you prefer to communicate? And you have to get comfortable interviewing. So you have to get comfortable talking to people. I know that a lot of times it is easier to text someone, but remember, in an interview, you are going to be expected to speak either face to face or in an environment like this on a virtual forum. But you have to figure out how you best like to communicate. Do you like to tell a brief story as you're highlighting your qualifications? Do you like to just lay out the facts and nothing but the facts? So take some time and think about that. And then also, how do you want to be remembered when you walk out of that interview room or hang up from the virtual forum, if that's the case? What do you want them to remember about you? Do you want them to remember how engaged you were? The answer to that is yes. Always show up with your A game to an interview. Always be engaged, even if it is, and this will happen at some point in your career, a job that you don't necessarily want. If you get, you will find throughout your career, you will get pushed in a certain direction that you may not want to go. Never let your face give that away. I wear all of my emotions on my face, so I've had to really be cognizant when I'm speaking with someone, both in a business setting, but also in an interview setting. If they say something that I don't like, I try not to react, and I've gotten better about that over the years. But just remember that you want to walk out of that room and have the interviewer or interviewers, plural, say, wow, he or she really knocked it out of the park. They were so engaged. They asked a lot of great questions. So think about what your brand is. Even if you're a little introverted, that is absolutely fine. You can still communicate, succinctly, directly. Talk about your passion because that's where you should shine. And we all have a lot of unique qualities that make us really good employees. So take a moment, figure out what those are, and then that all ties in to what is your brand. Dressing appropriately. So this is one that I have seen a wild variety over my years. So just to maybe give a little bit of insight how I've segued into liking to mentor people on interviewing and careers in general. So I used to work in a manufacturing facility where it was all men and me. So they would have me interview people who were coming to work in our plant to see how they would react to me. Well, it turns out that I was really good at interviewing people and I could get a really a frightening amount of information out of people in a very short amount of time without really having to ask too much. So that put me on the interview circuit, so to speak. So over the years, and I also do interviews for our local police department as well, interviewing people who want to become new police officers. I have seen a wild range of clothing styles, hairstyles, makeup styles, sock styles. I like to dress in bright, vibrant colors, but even I know that it's not appropriate to show up in a hot pink suit for an interview for a place that's a very conservative company. So you have to do your homework and figure out basically what kind of their brand is. And I would always err on the side of dressing conservatively. Rather plain clothing, splashes of color are okay. And as I've gotten older, because I'm much more advanced in my career, I kind of do what I want. I wore a bright Kelly green jacket to my last interview because I just wanted to wear it. But I would not have done that when I was your ages, because that would never have been okay. And it would not have been regarded very well. So think about how people are going to receive you, so to speak. And if you are doing a virtual interview, you still need to dress appropriately. Because as you can see, I'm wearing a black collared sweater. You can see me from, pretty much my midsection up, and you should still dress appropriately and professionally. So please dress modestly, nothing, not too low of necklines, nothing too short, nothing too tight. Again, I've seen the wide range, and it's distracting, to be honest, if people show up in clothes that are immodest. If you are meeting in person, please wear appropriate shoes, no fluffy bunny slippers. And no joke, I interviewed a young lady to become a police officer who came in wearing the very fancy heels with the fur across the top. And they were pink. They were lovely, but just completely misplaced. So again, think about what you are wearing and how you're presenting yourself. On the flip side, on the male side, I interviewed a young man, again, to become a police officer, who had the most distracting socks on. It was really it was hard to not stare at his socks and listen to what he was trying to say. Put your hair and makeup together. And now none of this has to cost a lot. So please don't get worried that you have to go out and buy, a high-end suit. You do not. You can dress well and not spend a lot of money. Please comb your hair. I have interviewed people that literally have not combed their hair. I have had people with wild makeup, again, very distracting. And you do not want to look like you're going to the club, to say the least. And for our young men of the population, please make sure you shave. Again, it's how you want to present yourself. Get a haircut, or at least if you have longer hair, like if you have my length of hair in your male, pull it back. Just don't have it in your face. All of those things are very distracting, and I have a hard time listening to people when I'm distracted by crazy socks, crazy shoes, when you could take a little bit of time to put together a decent outfit. Something that I used to do years ago when I was much younger in my career and didn't have, a lot of money as I was coming out of college, I would go to the thrift stores. You can find a great amount of outfits that would be perfect for interviews in thrift stores. Strongly recommend them. Really, really awesome way to shop. And then, you know what? Pay it forward. When you're done with that suit, or if you don't like it anymore, if it doesn't fit anymore, don't keep it in your closet. Pay it forward to somebody else who needs it. All right. Speaking appropriately, again, I have interviewed over the course of my 30 plus year career, I have interviewed hundreds of people, both in a manufacturing environment, in a supply chain environment, in a corporate environment, police department environment. So again, I've seen kind of a wide range, and this is something that, again, takes a while to get used to doing. But how should you speak? So above all, please be yourself. No one, I have this Snoopy sign up in my younger daughter's room. I gave it to her when she was at early adolescence, struggling, to find her place. It says, it's Snoopy, and it says, be yourself. No one else can tell you you're doing it wrong. And I want you to believe that. You should always be yourself, because if you come in with a fake persona, so to speak, that will eventually come out, especially if you are hired for the job. So just please be yourself. Don't mumble. That is something that I find that some people, that's just how they speak. And, I have a little bit of hearing loss from working in a plant for so long. So if people mumble, I'm always like, what? Sorry, what? Pardon me? Can you repeat that? Please don't make somebody ask you that. Just speak clearly, concisely, don't mumble. My goodness, no profanity, no bad words. Please don't do that. I have had that happen, and it's, again, it's not that I'm so tender that I can't hear the words. It's just really misplaced in an interview, and very jarring. So and also no attempts at humor, especially if you don't know the people, you don't know their sense of humor. You don't know if they appreciate either humor or sarcasm. Wait till you get to know them a little bit better and then let your sense of humor shine through, because it is very important to have a robust sense of humor to survive in the workforce and in school and in life, basically. However, a job interview is not the time to let your humor show. Please use full sentences. Please avoid slang as much as possible, because again, you will be interviewing probably with people who are anywhere from your age all the way up to past my age. And so some slang could get lost in there or be misinterpreted. And if someone addresses you, don't just say, "Okay," just say, "All right." So again, think about how you speak. And always, always speak with confidence and make eye contact. Eye contact is so hugely important. There's a lot, if you read up on body language and how it's interpreted, um, eye contact is very important because it leads to people thinking about your level of honesty. And I know in one of my companies that I worked for, I was having a discussion with our acting CEO, and he literally stared at the floor the entire time he was talking to me. That did not give me any ounce of confidence whatsoever in the company, and it was very concerning to me. Now, one of the habits that I have, which is not necessarily a good one, but at least I acknowledge it, when I'm thinking, I tend to look up, kind of trying to get myself like centered around the thought. But then if I do that, if I break eye contact with whom I'm interviewing with, I go right back to making eye contact when I'm ready to answer the question. Social media presence. So this is one that has really become quite impactful, shall we say, throughout the course of my career. Yes, I existed in a time and survived without social media. And there's the good and the bad of social media, right? So if you look at something like LinkedIn, which is the bottom bullet here, LinkedIn, it's essential as you want to grow your career, grow your network, get to know people, learn more about companies, to have a LinkedIn profile. And please keep it updated. And if you're going to put a picture on there, which I do strongly recommend, again, you don't need to go and spend a lot of money on getting a corporate headshot, especially with cell phones now. You can take such good pictures. Just have a friend. I don't recommend a selfie because nobody wants to see your arm like this in the picture. But just have somebody do a headshot against a very plain background, and use that. And then eventually you will probably work for someone who will pay for a corporate headshot. But more so on the Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. I'm trying to think of all of them. I think I got the main ones. Remember, nothing ever really disappears from the internet. And you can find an inordinate amount of information about a person in a very short amount of time. My daughters, who are now 28 and 29, they often joke that I should have worked for the FBI, because if you give me a name or even just a first name and a company name, I've got that person's LinkedIn profile. I've got them on Facebook, on Instagram. And I do check. So when I am interviewing somebody, I always check their LinkedIn, one, because I want to see if their resume ties to what they have on LinkedIn, but also I want to see, who they are, what else they list. But I also check their Facebook. And again, think about how you want to be remembered or viewed, because I know that I have seen some young people post some questionable content. And if an employer looks at that, it would make them take a pause and go, I don't know if this is really what we want to invite into our what the type of person that we want to invite into our organization based on what they're doing. Again, please, no profanity on your posts. Again, the impetuousness of youth, sometimes it seems like a really good idea, and I am here to assure you it is a really bad idea. So just be aware that future employers, or prospective employers rather, do check social media. I do all the time, and I think that it is something that most employers do now. Mock interviews. Practice, practice, practice. Nobody wants to walk into an interview cold and have not even thought about what you're going to say. So find a buddy, pair up with somebody, pretend to interview that person pretend interviews you, then return the favor, of course. So one thing that you can do is you can take a Google and you can take a look at top interview questions. Questions that you may be asked, questions that you should ask. Use those to kind of for the basis of your mock interview. And then also ask for help. You know, if a friend isn't available or you feel like you're not getting as much bang for your buck out of doing this with your peer, ask for help. Ask a teacher, ask a parent, ask a family member, community member. I'm sure there will be someone out there happy to help you. I would be happy to help you. Run through it over and over again until it feels natural. And again, speak with confidence. All right, so moving on to knowing your audience. This is very, very important. We're going to talk about company research and researching your interviewers. So look at both the position that is advertised and the company. Look at the company's webpage. Looked at the company's LinkedIn page as well. So it's different from the company's webpage. Look at their LinkedIn page and their presence. And try to understand their corporate culture. And corporate culture can become very important, especially as you grow in your career, because you'll start to figure out kind of where you fit in, what sort of culture do you like. And for me, I like a collaborative culture. So if I see a lot of people posting on LinkedIn who work for the company that I'm interviewing for with I this, I that, I accomplished this, I accomplished that, I'm probably going to think, doesn't seem very collaborative. But if I see a LinkedIn page that has, we did this as a team, we did that as a team, it's probably going to resonate more with me. And also do extensive research on, so I work in pharmaceuticals. So I always research the product or products that they make, because that's where a lot of good questions can come from. Why are you making this product? Why is that important? Who does that help? So take a look through their website, develop some questions based on what you see. Researching your interviewers. Now, this is one that I think is very important and is so much easier than back in the day when I started, because, you know, jobs weren't on the internet. You had to go find them in the newspaper like everybody else. And you also didn't have access to who you were interviewing with. So you would walk in and you would not know a thing about who you were talking to or what they were like. Now you have the benefit of people having LinkedIn pages. So look at their LinkedIn page, and there is nothing wrong with that. I'm a frequent LinkedIn user, and I always check before I'm interviewing somebody, did they check for my profile? If they didn't, I'm kind of like, and if they did, I'm like, oh, good. See if you have any contacts in common. So that's a fun one, because you can kind of get some more if you have a contact in common, you can get some insight to your interviewer, kind of like, well, what are they really like? I see what I see on LinkedIn, but what are they really like? Are they nice? Are they scary? Do they yell a lot? Things like that. See how long they've been with the company, what their career path has been. For instance, do they stay only at 6 months at every company, or are they a life person where they've been there for 35 years? Because looking at their career path may indicate, not necessarily, but it might indicate how they're going to be able to help your career progress, and how they would be able to help mentor you and get you where you want to go in your career. And now this last one is a little bit more difficult. Try to develop unique questions for each interviewer. Now, if you're interviewing with 2 people, not so hard. If you're interviewing with 10 people, that's a lot to manage. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with asking each interviewer the same couple of questions, because you may also notice that they have a different perspective on the very same questions. All right. We're at the big day. We're going to the interview. We're going to talk about presence and posture, selling yourself, anticipating questions, asking questions, and then bringing it home to get the job offer. Before you walk into the room, before you even leave the house, get your wiggles out. And what I mean by that is you're probably going to be a little nervous. And for what it's worth, I'm towards the end of my career. I still get nervous in an interview, like, oh, do I really know what I'm doing? Are they going to like me? All of those things. But do whatever it takes to get your wiggles out. Listen to your favorite song, watch a favorite movie clip, or stand like a superhero. And when I tell you I have done all three a lot, I absolutely have. So for reference, favorite song, Dream On by Aerosmith, watching a favorite movie clip, the death crawl scene in Facing the Giants, one of the most inspirational and heartwarming movie clips ever. Really good for an interview prep. And standing like a superhero, I'm not afraid to admit that I do that. Turn your cell phone off, or at least put it on silent. And please do not over-caffeinate yourself. This happened. I was interviewing somebody for an internal promotion, and I don't know who walked in my door, but it was not the same guy that I worked with every single day. Finally, I said to him, Dan, what did you do this morning? He's like, I had a triple shot espresso. I mean, he was sweating buckets in my office. He was making zero sense whatsoever. I said, did you eat anything? Nope, just the coffee. So he was a hot mess, and lesson learned on his part, because he did not get the promotion because he really couldn't even put a sentence together. He was so hyped up on caffeine because he so wanted this job, but he just went about it really the wrong way. So drink water, little bit of caffeine if you need to be perked up in the morning, if you're a caffeine person, and if you're not, shout out to you, but just do not over caffeinate. All right, now, your interviewer has either come out to get you or you have walked into the room. What do? You shake hands very firmly. Please, no dead fish hands. That drives me crazy. Look them in the eye. Say, hi, I'm Jen Schauble. It's so nice to meet you. Thank you for taking the time to meet with me. Because it's important to acknowledge that as much as they need that job filled, you need that job too. So their time is valuable, not that yours isn't, but always thank someone for their time. I mean, I thank the people in the grocery store for their time. Like, hey, thanks for helping me out today. I really appreciate it. Please wait to sit down until you are invited. Things have relaxed a lot. And again, it depends on what industry you're going to, but things have relaxed a lot over the course of my career. But some law firms, probably some banks, some higher end research companies, some consulting companies, they are very formal and they would expect you to stand until they tell you to sit down. And most interviewers are very kind, like, hey, have a seat, pick wherever you're comfortable, sort of thing. Expect the unexpected and just take it all in stride. Again, don't let your face give away your shock if you walk into a room and instead of one person sitting there, you have a panel of 6 people. Just take it all in stride. You can do this. Just talk to one person at a time, and just answer the questions confidently. Remember that schedules can change at the last minute with interviewers. I know I've gotten thrown into an interview. I was literally walking down the hall one day and somebody said, I don't have time to interview this person. They handed me the resume and I walked in the room and I walked in and I said, Jen, it's nice to meet you. I have no idea anything about you, so you're going to have to help me out. And the person was just kind of like, well, I wasn't expecting you. And she was very aghast that my boss couldn't suddenly meet and I had to fill in. She did not take it very well. She was really upset about it. And I just said, I'm sorry, this was just a last minute schedule change, couldn't be avoided, but I'm here to help you. So again, just roll with it. It's hard to do sometimes. And again, that is a professional maturity thing that you'll get more comfortable kind of rolling with things as they happen. But just, we've all been there. And if you're nervous, which you are going to be nervous, take a deep breath and knock it out of the park. Selling yourself. My kids once asked me, is it okay to brag on interview day? Because as their mom, I was always like, it's not polite to brag. It's not nice. Don't do that, except when you're in a job interview. Brag about your accomplishments. Be proud of who you are. Know that what you have achieved, a lot of other people can't, won't, don't want to. So be proud of those, but don't over exaggerate. This has come back to bite people quite a few times that I've seen. I saved $3 million on this project. And if in the industry I work in, everybody knows somebody. So if you have a crazy thing like I saved $3 million, I can probably name 2 or 3 people that worked with the person I'm interviewing, and I will find out if that's true. So don't over exaggerate. Just speak again very confidently, but very realistically about, yeah, I worked on this project with 10 other people, and together we saved $3 million. Please don't put yourself down with what you've accomplished. Don't say, oh, other people my age, they've done 5 times more than I have. I don't care what other people your age have done. If I'm interviewing you, I care what you have done, what you are doing, and why you want to be here. So please don't ever, it's called self-deprecation. Please don't do that. You are great and you deserve to be in that room for the interview. So don't put yourself down. And if you say, I only have a bachelor's degree. And if I'm interviewing with somebody who has a PhD, I don't say, I only have a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering. I'll say, I have a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering. Granted, it was a really long time ago, but don't put yourself down to make someone else look better. Now, this is what I always recommend. Talk about yourself like your best friend would talk about you, because that is what you need to do in an interview, because you cannot, even though sometimes I wanted to, you cannot bring your best friend to the interview with you and let you speak on their behalf. But you should talk about yourself like somebody else that loves you very much would talk about you. So anticipating questions you may be asked, and this goes back to what I said a couple of slides ago, that you can Google common interview questions. So think about that, and please do that. Take the time to do that, because again, you don't want to be caught off guard by the basic questions. Why do you want this job? Where have you worked before? If this is indeed not your first job that you're interviewing for, where have you worked before? What's your education? Situational questions. I'm a big fan of these. Tell me about a time when you, I don't know, pick a topic. Also, technical and skills questions. This is very important for some of the roles that you all will be interviewing for, especially in STEM, supply chain, and skilled trade. I don't want to hire somebody who may not have the skills that I require. I also like to do a lot of hypothetical questions. What would you do if, I don't know, again, pick a topic. It would depend for me. My question would depend on what role I am interviewing someone for. So I also like to ask a lot of questions assessing cultural fit. And again, I spoke about this cultural fit a few slides back. What work environment makes you the most happy? And how does the role fit with your career goals? So think about that, because that is also very important to you. Somebody in my career once gave me some very valuable advice when one of my jobs was ending, the company was downsizing. I had 2 potential jobs, and one I really, really wanted, but was further behind in the process. And the other one, I already had a job offer and I was really not excited about it. And he said, wait for what's right. He said, because you don't want to jump to something that is wrong just to fill a gap on your resume. Take the gap if you need to, but get to the right role. So always remember that. I also like to ask a lot of behavioral questions. What makes you tick? Like what inspires you? And what do you ultimately want to do in your career? And that's a different way of saying, where do you see yourself in 5 years? The age-old question. I just like to find out, what do people ultimately want to do? If you tell me you want to be a master plumber, awesome. That's great. We need more of them. How can I help you get there? And how can this role help you get there? Because it's important when I'm interviewing somebody, it's as important to me to make sure that they fit for what I need as they see themselves fitting in. And also, who are you outside of work? And there's a lot of questions that you can't be asked. Sorry, you can't be asked about religion, anything like that. But I like to ask people, what do you do in your spare time? Because that's a very innocuous question, but gives really good insight to people as to who they are. And people, again, will volunteer a lot of great information like, oh, I like to hike on the weekends and I like to hike with my dog. Oh, what kind of dog do you have? And then you get to see a little bit of insight about your interviewer will see insight as to who you are, but you also get to see some insight as to who your potential employer is. Because if you tell me you like to hike with your dog and I just go, okay, then maybe I'm not a very nice and engaging person, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time getting to know you as a person. And if that works for you, great. But if it doesn't work for you, maybe think about that when you're going through the interview process. But again, expect the unexpected. One of the funniest questions that I was ever asked in a job interview was, if I could possess a superpower, what would it be and why? And I think I probably burst out laughing. And I think my answer was being able to read people's minds, especially during business negotiations. Questions you should ask. Please have some questions ready. Nothing drives me crazier than when I get to the end of an interview and I'm done with my questions and the person has 0 questions for me. That means they either don't care, haven't looked into the company, or just don't even know where to begin. So you can ask the first question I have listed here, that is a very bold question, but it is one that has served me well. How do I measure up with your needs? Where do you see the gaps? What can I do to help you understand that I am the right person for the role? It's important as you progress in your career, not so much for your first job, to understand people's management style. And as you progress in your career, no matter what that career is, no matter what that field is, you will start to learn what management styles work for you. Micromanagers, they drive me crazy. I don't like somebody standing. I had a boss once who would literally stand right back here and watch me type into Excel. And I finally turned around and I said, this is not going to work for me. Like, you need to I'll come back to you when I'm done. Very nice man, though. Understanding why the position is open, because I have run across positions that recruiters have come to me for the same position in the same company 3 times in the span of 3 years. I interviewed for it the first time. Second time, I was like, nope. Third time, I was like, really no. So understand why the position is open. Is it because it's a newly created position because the company's expanding? Great. Previous person was promoted? Great. Workload was too much for the person, which no one will ever tell you, but the workload was too much and the person ran screaming into the night, probably a red flag for you. Or if they've turned the position over 3 times in a year, again, concerns for red flags. I always like to ask my potential boss, how can I make you look good to your boss? What are the goals for the position? What are the company priorities for the year? What do you like most about working here? And I always like to ask that question because I like to understand why people like going there every day. You spend a lot of time at work, so you might as well make sure that you like it. Now, granted, I have had jobs in my career that I have not necessarily loved, but they served the purpose at the time. So just remember that where you start is not where you're going to finish. Bringing it home, at the end of the interview, ask what the next steps are, ask when you can expect to hear back. If they ask you if you have any final questions, take the time to rerun through your elevator speech, just kind of to close it out and say, I'm a rock star, you need to hire me today. Stand up when your interviewer does, because that's generally a good indicator that you are now done. Shake hands, look them in the eye, thank them for spending time with you. Following up, the importance of a personalized thank you. So email a personalized thank you note. Try to remember something specific you spoke about with each person. However, I had a faux pas when I tried to do that, and I had 2 people crisscrossed in my mind. I was mortified when on my first day of work, I did get the job, by the way. I was absolutely mortified on the first day of work when the one guy says, I'm not the finance guy. That's this guy. I'm like, oh boy. But I was very embarrassed, but I took it in stride. In the thank you note, it does not need to be long, but make sure that you send it. Reiterate your enthusiasm for the position. Reiterate your skills aligning with their needs. Tell them, again, power of positive thinking. Tell them you're looking forward to hearing back and becoming a part of the team. All right. So are you ready to be an interview ninja? I think you are. Remember what you learned here and in your GT3S core course. Always have your updated resume, and please not an AI generated one. Oh my goodness. And if you do use AI to generate your resume, read it through, make sure that it makes sense, because I can look at a resume and go, a person didn't write this. This was written by AI. Always be prepared to have an interview, even when it's not a formal one. Like I said at the beginning, life is an interview. You never know who you're going to meet. You never know what business connection you'll make and how they'll remember you. Ask for help when needed. This is so important. Please reach out to somebody who can, give you some guidance. Know that you can and will do this. If at first you don't succeed, try again. We've all had stretches, especially younger in our career, when we interview for a job and don't get it and it feels like the end of the world. I assure you it is not, and you will be just fine. Please reach out to me by email. My email address is here, and I would be happy to help. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Wow, thank you so much for all of this insight, for this incredible presentation. As somebody who's in my early 30s, I found this to be very helpful as well in my own career.
Good.
A lot of experiences. You noted quite a bit of mistakes I have made along the way as well. So I'm very thankful for your expertise here and for our next gens.
Absolutely.
I do have a question for you as well, and these are some things that I've kind of thought about in my career advancement as well. You have thoroughly prepped them for what they're going to be asked.
Mhm.
Can you give some pointers on what they should be looking for from the employer during the interview process to know, is this the right job for them? Is this the right place for
Mhm.
them? Are there any red flags that perhaps they should be looking at during the interview?
Yeah, that is a great question, and I'm glad you asked it. So yes, again, body language says a lot. If I am interviewing with the person who would be my boss, if I were the successful candidate, and I walk into the room and he or she doesn't even get out of his or her chair to greet me, I'm like, okay, like that's odd. Again, lack of eye contact. If you also feel like someone is skirting your question, not answering a question directly. What are your publicly held companies have a ton of information out about earnings, right? So in a privately held company, you can not hide maliciously, but you don't have to disclose, right? So I worked for a privately held company and I was asking, what's our cash runway, which means how much money do you have left before you run out of money? So why do you want to work here? And I was like, oh, heck. It's just like that things like that, when you can't get a direct answer to a very direct question, but then that would be a red flag to me. The other thing that I would say, though, to kind of caveat that is I would rather have someone say to me, I'm sorry, I don't feel comfortable disclosing that right now. We're not under any sort of confidentiality provision. Let's talk about that. But if it's a kind of a softball question and they refuse to answer, or don't answer directly, that would be a red flag for me.
Mhm.
Also,
That's
if you I'm sorry, I was just gonna sorry, just one more add
keep
on to
going.
that. I've also I remember walking into one interview and people were literally yelling at each other down the hallway, and all I could think of was, one, that's rather odd, and two, I don't think I would want to do that every day. Like, it's not an environment that I would enjoy. So as you progress throughout your career, you sort of get a feeling for what's a welcoming environment and where you would fit in versus something that just makes you kind of go, oh, that would stress me out, or I don't want to do that, or it just seems like an angry atmosphere, which this one company was. I went home and I told my husband, I'm like, so that's a no. It was just like very like, I don't think I want to do this. So you'll start to get a feeling for it, but just the basics, like a basic human interaction, if there's nothing there, or if you find that your personality and your potential boss's personality just really don't mesh, which you can tell in a 30-minute interview. Let that serve as a red flag, because even if you like the other 9 people that you interviewed with, you're still stuck with your boss.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Those are great pointers. Thank you so much. And I think that it's, the skills that are learned over time to read people and to find who you are as an employee and what kind of
Absolutely.
environment you want to work with. So I like what you had said earlier in this session, that where you're starting doesn't have to be where you end. So that's fabulous. With that in mind, let's say they get the job
Yep.
and they realize a couple months into it, they're not quite happy there.
Yep.
Do you find when you're looking at resumes, is there a certain amount of time a person should stay at a job for in terms of all appearances on that resume?
Yep, that's a great question, and it's one that I kind of lived through. So my first job out of college, I graduated in a not so great job market. So I worked for the federal government for a year. Great employer. It did not work for my personality at all. I am very type A, very driven, and I figured out about 2 weeks in, I was in the very wrong place. And so I was just like, oh, heck, what do I do? And I remember my dad saying to me, stay for a year. Like, even he's like, I know you hate it. It's not what you want to do. But he said, stay for a year, because if you jump 2 months in, that's going to make it look like you're a problem versus it's just not a fit for you. So great advice from my dad. So I would say minimum stay for a year at your first job. So after that, it depends on what the situation is. So job hopping is much more acceptable than it was at the beginning of my career. I remember interviewing. So I worked 1 year at my first job, 2 years at my second job, 15 at my next job. But I remember saying to my old boss, saying to me, whatever job you take next, you need to stay put a while, because if you're looking at 1 year, 2 year, 1 year, 2 year, it doesn't look so good. That has changed, but again, don't job hop, and don't always look for, well, I can make $5,000 more if I go here, and then I'll go back to my old employer, just keep going back and forth. That doesn't speak well of you. It just speaks well of, I want the next shiny object. So I think I said earlier in the presentation how, sometimes a pause is better than the wrong thing. You will find yourself in a wrong job sometime in your career. It happens to all of us. Stay for a year, unless it is absolutely unbearable, unmanageable, or in any case, a hostile atmosphere. That's a different story. And I'd be happy to have, one-off conversation with somebody if they would want to discuss that.
That's great advice. And that's what I've typically been told as well. So I'm glad
Yep.
I followed that.
Yeah.
Now, before we conclude this evening and I share our events coming up, I wanted to see if there's anything else that you had to add to your fabulous presentation this evening.
So I would just to close it out, again, thank you everybody for your time. I hope you've had some fun along the way. I've had a great time doing this. Again, please don't hesitate to reach out. I am here to help. It is so important to me to get young people to where they need and want to go in their career, that I will help people. I will do mock interviews. I will look at resumes, whatever it takes to get people started.
Great. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you.
I'm going to share my screen one last time. We have a number of events coming up that we hope that you could share with your networks for all attendees. You will be joining us again next month for session 2, Where Are You Stuck? And we have another session this upcoming Saturday morning at 10 a.m. for session 2 of our AI series for next gens and others who may be interested in learning more. Please share with any 13 to 24-year-olds. There's still time to sign up and it's free. And before we conclude, I'm pleased to see that our Executive Director and CEO, Elisa Bassnight, has joined us. Welcome, Elisa. Would you
Thank
like to make the
you.
closing remarks, or would you like me to continue?
Please continue.
Okay. Well, we have actually, you came at the perfect time. We've reached the end of our time, and I just wanted to make a big round of applause to our panelists, Jen Schauble, and I would like to point out faux pas on my end is I did not ask how to correctly pronounce your name. So I had pronounced it wrong the whole early part of the season. So that would be my 2 cents in the interview process. Ask how to say their name.
No worries at all. It is a hard name to pronounce.
There's so many takeaways for all of us, so please subscribe at the QR code on the screen to follow to receive updates and news on WIN-NextGen's activities. And thank you for joining. And remember, together we can.